Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Well, I'm Margaret Howell reporting for Infowars.com. We covered this story, Joe Biggs and I, yesterday about this Somalian refugee who plowed into a group of students, took out a butcher knife, hacking into 9 of them, ultimately shot and killed by police. And we're beginning to see the media spin, frankly, about this young man, who he is, the refugee crisis as a whole. It's really starting to annoy me. And I know you brought some really interesting information, especially on social media, regarding who this attacker was and how people are feeling about it. Does it annoy you at all to see the media spin on this already so quickly?
What I can't stand is when an attack comes out, it's automatically, they're ready to say white guy.
Right.
White guy with a gun.
Lone wolf is how they're painting this in particular. He's not a part
It's a lone wolf. I mean, he has nothing to do with ISIS whatsoever, even though ISIS particularly called out for an attack like this on American soil. And ISIS has now come out today and claimed that this guy was part of their brotherhood and that this was an attack that they hold dear, and he represents ISIS and was one of their soldiers for Allah. You know, what I can't stand is the left is always ready to just jump immediately on gun control. Now look at this. Senator Tim Kaine, deeply saddened by the senseless act of gun violence at Ohio State this morning, praying for the injured and the entire Buckeye community. Hello, McFly. It was a car and a butcher's knife. Hey, how about we wait till the facts come out before you jump on here with your commie love and chubby fingers and start tweeting away and sound like an unprofessional douchebag.
Well, people don't even know who Tim Kaine is anymore. When the election's over, they're like, who is
So I told the guy, I said, sorry, a hero with a gun killed your terrorist buddy, Sharia Tim Kaine. When real heroes kill terrorists, Tim calls it senseless gun violence.
Right.
So that's me trolling him.
Oh, nice.
Here's the lady from Moms Demand Action, Shannon Watts. Our nations protect their students. America gives dangerous people guns and asks students to defend themselves. Well, you don't allow your students to have guns. Second of all, a gun wasn't used in the attack. So maybe just chill out on the tweets for a minute until we get all the facts. Okay, Moms Demand Action? Maybe you should pull out a dildo and start another rally for that.
You know, there it is right there.
Hey, they're the dildo protesters. They love doing this. Here's another one.
Said it's a family show. That's right. Anyway, but you're absolutely right. I mean, they need to get the facts straight. That's the bottom line here. They need to get the facts straight.
Can't wait for all the politicians who refuse to adjust gun laws and send their thoughts and prayers to Ohio State. Well, let's first think about what we're tweeting and get the facts first. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. They're so quick to jump on this and blame white people, blame guns. But as soon as it came out that this guy was of Somali descent, then all of a sudden you saw on Twitter, the trend went all the way down to 10.
Right.
Precisely. They don't want to sit here and give that any light whatsoever, because it's hard to talk about this, because at the end of the day, we should feel guilty because of our white privilege. We're the ones that caused this, our mean tweets.
We saw this with Omar Mateen and the 49 people who died in that Pulse nightclub shooting. We saw this with, I think their last name is the Farouks, if I'm not mistaken, in San Bernardino, and that mass death. We see this apology stance happening every single time, where the facts are totally sanitized from an article. And you mentioned social media. This young man, Abdul Artan, actually posted on Facebook expressing anger about the treatment of Muslims around the world. This message was discovered by law enforcement investigators looking into a social media page. So he was talking about how mistreated Muslims are around the world, and then his response to that is to go and try to kill 9.
Oh yeah, this one lady goes, poor kid goes through hell as a child in Somalia, comes to America, probably have been bullied by racists in white Ohio. Now he's dead. Hashtag thanks, Trump.
Right.
So yeah,
it's not
Islam
funny.
can't attack people. Trump supporter. People attack people, and that guy was obviously not right in his mind. And I went, yet you'll be the first to jump on the gun control bandwagon, won't you?
It's insanity, not radical Islam.
Look, there is a problem.
Anything but radical Islam. It's gun violence. It's Trump. It's mental instability. It's anything but radical Islam.
Radical Islam is not a problem. Meanwhile, let's look at the list of Islamic terror attacks in 2016, and they stopped doing this test in July because there's, quite frankly, so many. During this time period, there were 1,274 Islamic attacks, in which 11,774 people were killed and 14,303 killed around the world. So that seems kind of like a problem. in their eyes, they'll be like, they just think, well, we'll get those 11,774 people back. It's okay. Don't worry about it. No, this is an issue, and we should call it radical Islam. That is what it is. I feel like it's a breath of fresh air that we're going to have a president who's quite frankly not scared to say it for once.
Radical Islam. Exactly.
Radical Islam. Let's all say it together.
You know, the radicalization process, and that's largely why you and I are here, because we wanted to talk about how there is a radicalization process that happens, and we have to acknowledge it. And for whatever reason, this young man decided to become radicalized and become an ISIS sympathizer. It's annoying that the media is trying to whitewash it and just call him a lone wolf or somebody that had a mental issue, because that's not what was happening. And don't you think it's part of the problem when people refuse to even acknowledge that process? I mean, there's a process to this. Or no?
There's a cultural thing. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a guy named Ami Horowitz who was in Minnesota, Minneapolis. He actually interviewed tons of Somalians. They have a huge population there. And he asked them, what do you think about Sharia law? From children all the way up to old women, we're all like, Sharia law is good. And then he asked, do you prefer Sharia law over American law? They all said yes. Then he says, would you rather live in Somalia or in the USA? And they all said, these are people who live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They would all rather live in Somalia. This is the problem. They don't want to fit in. Right. They don't want to assimilate to our way of life.
Don't you have to take a constitutional test to acquire citizenship? You have to love and profess the Constitution of the United States, not Sharia law. Isn't that sort of required?
Yeah, but if you look at the culture of these people, just like in Iraq and Afghanistan and other Muslim nations, it's okay to lie to non-believers. So for them, when they do that and they lie and they know they're not being truthful, it's okay, because at the end of the day, it's an ends to a mean, or a mean to an ends. So they're doing that so they can get in. And the report we did last week, remember the guy who was one of the terrorists who'd been held at Guantanamo?
Right.
He said he didn't want another 9/11 attack. He said that's a little too hard. It's easier for them to systematically come in, use these open borders, breed their way in, use the laws against us to better benefit themselves, and then usher in Sharia law and then take over the world. And that, when they find America at its weakest point, that's when they slit the throat.
There's an agenda, is what that confirms. There's an agenda going on, and we're very foolish to ignore it. What do you make? Okay, so I just want to shift this to Trump, because I know we're running out of time, but we talked about, these instances on the ground and how Trump is being blamed in tweets. Ironically, I don't even know what he had to do. What did he have to do with this, Biggs? I mean, what's wrong with people and their conscience?
Well, it's 2016, and he's a white person.
Right, so he's to blame.
He is to blame for this. He is a racist nationalist, and he wants sovereignty, and he wants secure borders, and he wants to vet people that are coming into our country. He wants to make sure that these are people who share our values. So at the end of the day, that makes him a big old racist bigot.
Right. Eloquently put, by the way. Eloquently put.
Hey, man, that's just how the liberal left is. And it's pathetic we live in this day and age where it's come to this point where we can't even be proud Americans. We can't even be proud to go out and practice our faiths. Meanwhile, this guy was upset because at another university, they didn't have enough prayer rooms for him. So they want to, claim that they're the peaceful religion, or the religion of peace. Meanwhile, to prove it, they're willing to go out and kill people and or attack them, cut them, drive them over with cars, throw them off bridges, kill homosexuals, do all this stuff to prove just how peaceful they are. That's insanity.
It is insanity. Omar Hassan, who's the president of this Columbus, Ohio-based Somali Community Association, he said that a member of Artan's family told him that the suspect's mother and siblings had been interviewed by law enforcement and authorities after the incident in Columbus. Just to point this out, they're the second biggest Somali population in the U.S., about 50,000 immigrants from the East African nation residing in this community. So we're talking about a massive population swell in one area.
There's a guy named Farah, who is a Muslim who goes to Ohio State, who is a Somali refugee, says attacks blamed on terrorism have a familiar aftermath on campuses, snide comments, peering eyes. Well, people are kind of scared. Mm-hmm. If you've gone through an attack and a certain type of person did it because of religious beliefs or whatever, that's going to make people a bit apprehensive of other people who look just like that and or act like that. Mm-hmm. That's not racist. That's just what happens after a traumatic experience.
Right.
People are automatically going to be a little apprehensive of that. Well, you know what? That's it for tonight's segment on this I've enjoyed our conversation,
Thank you,
Margaret. It's
Joe.
been very informative. Tune in tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, back here at the Infowars Nightly News.
In case you haven't heard, Infowars has become the most influential media outlet in America. We're making freedom go viral. And now we are proud to announce a new weapon in the epic battle against the globalists. Infowars Prime, where you can watch live high-definition feeds of The Alex Jones Show, plus exclusive insider videos from the Infowars crew and behind-the-scenes action. Go to Infowars.com/app and download today. Infowars Prime is available right now for your iPhone or Android. You will have access to exclusive videos that you can't see anywhere else. And that means live coverage of events and breaking news on location as it happens. You can also take advantage of amazing deals from the Infowars store that are only available for Infowars Prime subscribers. That's Infowars Prime at Infowars.com/app. And if you can hear my voice, you are the resistance.